The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." He replied, "What do you wish me to do for you?" They answered him, "Grant that in your glory we may sit, one at your right and the other at your left." Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" They said to him, "We can." Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right or at my left is not mine to give, but is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at James and John. Jesus summoned them and said to them, "You know that those who are recognized as rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you will be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you will be the slave of all. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord. The other day I read an article in a well-known Catholic journal. The title of the article was, "This Time It Will Be Personal." And it caught my attention, so I wanted to read what it was about. And when I read it, I said, I should have written this article, because I had thought about what the article was about before reading the article. And it made reference to the made-for-television series that some of you may be watching by director Dallas Jenkins, that is called The Chosen. It's a free app. You can get it on your phone. I don't have any investment in it, so I'm not advertising, but I've been watching it. It has 16 episodes so far, 2 seasons. It's supposed to be a 7-season series on the life of Christ, and you can actually download the app on your phone, and you can actually project it to your smart TV, and you can see it in the big screen, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. But the article, going back to the title, "This Time It Will Be Personal," it was because the writer was dreading the 7th season. And whether it is the 7th season or the 6th season, how long they portrayed the resurrection, what he was referring to was the crucifixion. And he was saying, this time it will be personal because the character development of Jesus in the series has been so good that there will be a crucifixion, and we're going to feel it because we're getting very close to the character. And it's interesting because that's really a very important theological truth behind it that the series have done a good job with. Because you see, Jesus of Nazareth, he was unlike any other person who ever lived. You and I, we are one person, hopefully. You know, if you think of yourself like more than one person, that usually is a psychological problem. So you should be one person, but we only have one nature, a human nature. So I am a human being with a human nature, and I know That's the fact. That's the only way I think as a human. That's the only way I live, because I cannot do certain things that are not human. But in the case of Jesus, he was one person, but he had two natures. One human nature and a divine nature. In theology, I'm a theologian, we refer to that as the hypostatic union. I don't know how our thing is going to translate that, but the hypostatic union, it means that Jesus was one person with two natures, and his person was divine. So when Jesus spoke, it was God speaking, the Son of God. But he had two ways of operating, because he could feel when the nails went through his hands, it hurt. He could thirst. He needed to sleep. I always like this one. He needed to go to the bathroom. See, I don't think we imagine Jesus going to the bathroom, but he needed to go to the bathroom. So he was human in that sense, but he also had a divine nature. That meant that he could know what you were thinking. Can you imagine facing somebody that, as he was looking at you right now, he knew exactly what you were thinking? He could see Nathanael under the fig tree. He could read the minds of the Pharisees. They thought it was sorcery, that it was something like not from God. But he could be in the presence of his Father constantly. So we never can know what that is like. But the TV series has done a great job portraying that balance, you see, because Jesus is shown certainly as knowing, as being able to tell people what they're thinking, as performing miracles, but he's also very human. He can smile, he can joke, he can dance. It's almost like when you watch a series, you would like to go out with him and have a beer. Let's sit down and have a beer. We can have a nice talk. And that's exactly what the article was referring to. That it's going to be very hard to watch that scene because we're getting very close to him. He's not just a historical figure, but he's my brother. He's someone I know. He's someone that is close to me. And when they do that to him, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt me. Like if it was your brother, like if it was your relative, like if it was your spouse, someone you love, you will feel for that person. And I was thinking that is exactly what the Christian journey should be. It should be getting closer to the Lord so that we can know him intimately in that way. And that's the theme for the readings today. You see, the scripture today is saying Jesus emptied himself. He lowered himself. He became one like us. Isaiah in the first reading is talking about the suffering servant. In the letter to the Hebrews, the author of that letter is telling us he understood everything that is human, because that's why he became a man. And I've always thought like that. There's nothing you can tell Jesus that he doesn't understand. You can say, well, you don't know what it is to die young. Well, he knows he died young. Well, you don't know what it is to be betrayed by a friend. Well, he knows he was betrayed by a friend. Well, you don't know what it is leaving your country and going to a foreign country where they don't speak your language. Well, he knew that. He went to Egypt when he was. So there's nothing that you can say to him that he cannot tell you, oh yeah, I know what that is like. You see, that's the whole mystery of the incarnation. The Son of Man, the Son of God, becoming one like us. But there's another side to that coin. See, the other side to that coin is that he did that so that we can get closer to him. And that's precisely the point. As we pray, as we do certain things, that's the goal. That when that happens, this time it will be personal. Because we know him. Because we're close to him. And we do that in many ways. You're doing it right now. As you come to Mass, I hope you know that what you do here is worship God. That's what we're doing. So this Mass is not about me. I'm not the center of the Mass. You don't come here to hear the choir. You don't come here to see our thing interpreting. No, we come here to pray, to worship God. And we all do it together. I'm worshiping with you. If you come here to see me, you're missing the point. This is not what this is all about. So we're coming to worship our God. And Jesus is the center of the liturgy. He's here so that we can hear him, so that we can see him, so that we can partake of his life. And that should not be limited to Sunday Mass. Hopefully you have some time that you pray on your own. And that's the goal of prayer, is to get to know the Lord better, to get to know who he is, what he was like, what did he say, how did he teach us. So that's part of that, getting closer to him as well. And of course, the sacraments are a great way of doing that as well. The sacraments, you know, think of the sacraments. Any sacrament of the church is really an opportunity to be closer to God, to be better, to be more godlike. Jesus is saying, I came down to you and became like you, but I want you to become like me. That's the exchange. That's the deal. And as we go to the sacraments, we get a little closer to him. I'm thinking particularly, certainly, the sacrament of penance, of confession. That's a great sacrament to get closer to God, because we acknowledge our humanity, our weaknesses, our problems. And you know, even yesterday I was listening to the confessions of a lot of young people. Great that they can go to confession, but they don't know how to go to confession. Every time they came in, I had to kind of explain. I take that upon myself and catechists, because we catechize very bad. You know, there's no teaching as to even how to do a simple thing as going to the sacrament of penance, but they have no clue. They had to be instructed. So, but it's interesting that we don't use that sacrament too often. It's more common, like to begin the confession, you usually say, I went to confession last week, or it's been a week since my last confession, or it's been 10 years since my last confession. It's very different, because when I hear that, and I've been a confessor for 35 years, when you hear someone say, I went to confession last week, you know you're dealing with something very different than someone that comes and says, I went to confession last time 10 years ago. I don't know how they can even remember what they've done in 10 years. I don't. So we try to go to confession more often, once a month at least, maybe every 2 weeks. I'm finding now that every 2 weeks may be better, because even a month, you know, there's so much in a month. We do so many things that we go through, that we experience, that we see, that we think, sometimes not in the way we should. And it's so important to do that. And trust me, 35 years as a confessor, I usually hear more often, it's been 10 years since my last confession, that I went to confession last week. You hardly ever hear that. But if we understood that sacrament, we would understand that every time we go to the sacrament, we get a little closer to Jesus. So it will be personal. That will be personal, because I'm getting closer to him. And that's so important to do. And lastly, not only prayer and the sacraments, but to follow his example. The gospel is very good to them. He came not to be served, but to serve. You know, that's a key line in the gospel today, that Jesus came to serve. And I think the moment we hear the word service, immediately we think other people. We need to serve other people. We serve our brothers and sisters, and that's true, and it's good to be of service, but let me suggest to you a different way of looking at service. You know, we can serve the world by just being Christian. You know, we're losing a lot of ground. In the world, we don't see Christianity. It's slowly eroding, disappearing. It's nowhere to be found. And what is called secularism comes from a Latin word that is this century, this time. That's what takes over. And let's be honest, what are we interested on typically? Money, work, exercise, computers, phones, gadgets. That's what pays. That's what takes our attention. That's what we're talking about. If I start talking about those things, even when I said it's a free app You can connect it through your phone to your TV if you have a smart TV and you are connected to the same Wi-Fi. You see, everybody's talking like that. But where is the talk about God, prayer, the rosary, good things, virtues? That's disappearing. We're losing ground. You can serve the world by showing yourself as a Christian anywhere you go. So if you go to eat, pray before you eat and let people watch you. Why not? No, we don't want to impose our religion. You're not imposing anything, you're just praying. You know, I'm thinking to myself, if I was a chaplain in a Catholic university, I would ask the president, can we bless the football field every Saturday morning before the game? Why not? Maybe the team begins to win every game. You never know. But we've lost that kind of presence. We're not there. We have given the stage to secularism. What dominates is the world. And let me tell you something. Secularism is false. It's not true objectively. Objectively true is that the world was created by God. And I hope you remember your catechism that there's only one God. There are not many gods, there's only one God. And for us as Christians, that God is the God revealed to us by Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God. So there's no other God. There's no other religion. And I know that hurts some ears because, oh no, we have to be very pastoral and careful because every religion is good. Well, objectively, there's only one God, and that's the God revealed by Jesus Christ. And that's the God we believe in. And we need to give him the place that he should have. And we shouldn't be ashamed for talking about God, for bringing God into our conversation. The other day, I was talking, to give you an example, I was talking to a parishioner. She's a teacher. She was given this week a schedule. And the schedule that the principal gave her, it said that she had to be at the classroom and at the dining room at the same time. And she said, this is wrong, I can't do this. So she talked to me complaining. And I said, oh, don't complain, just use that. You know, that's a great thing. Just go to the principal. You have to go to the principal, and this is what you have to do. And I told her verbatim what she had to say. She should go to the principal and say, Mr. or Mrs., whatever the principal is, I pray a lot every day. I actually pray quite often. But even with all my prayer, I still don't have the gift of bilocation. And I said to her, you know, that will elicit maybe a couple of responses. Maybe that principal will say, how do you pray? Tell me about your prayer. That would be great because that's like a silver platter given to you to proclaim your faith, to talk about your prayer. So that's a great thing. You're evangelizing right there. And maybe he or she, the principal, would say, and what's bilocation? What is that? And then I would say, oh, you have to read the life of Padre Pio. Or you have to read the life of St. Martin de Porres. And if you read their lives, you will hear about bilocation. But you see, in just a few sentences, you have given witness of the faith, and you are recovering ground. You're taking ground, because secularism is taking all that away from us. And there's no Christian manifestation out there. We're losing it. We're losing that battle. Because nobody is willing to be shown himself or herself as a Christian. When we get closer to Christ by praying, by receiving the grace that comes from the sacrament, and by following his example, we will get closer to him, not only in our thinking, but in the way that we feel. And when that happens, it definitely will be personal. Amen.